Hi everybody, how are you doing? Welcome back to Paris. I guess that you were looking for some more hot news on PSG, you were at the best place for that, so no more waiting, let's get to it. Paris is magical but so unfortunate. Effectively, the PSG's encounter against Juve was their final game of the season, and despite everyone's expectations, they failed to hold on to first position, because Benfica defeated Maccabi Haifa 6-1, at the same time reclaiming the lead from Paris Saint-Germain thanks to a greater number of outside goals. It must be acknowledged that everything was decided in the money time, with the Lisbon's last-second goal. This surprise also garners major press coverage in France. A local publication goes even further within its pages to state that Paris can only take responsibility for itself. Globally, this latest failure has caused major upsets throughout Europe, from Italy to Portugal to even Spain, which worries for the Real Madrid with the PSG's second-place finish, one of them worst rivals. Our Mbappe keeps setting records in the Champions League. He scored again against Juventus, 1-2, and registered his 40th goal in the Champions League. The French player was the first to cross this symbolic threshold. It turned into a love story between Kylian Mbappe and this tournament. The PSG player came to register his 40th goal in the most prestigious of competition, by taking the first spot on the podium yesterday on the pelmet of the Allianz Stadium. A significant obstacle for the Frenchman wearing number 7, who recently was named the best striker in PSG history for the Champions League. Precocious records are something Mbappe regularly does. Despite being only 23 years old, he may be a future Ballon d'Or since he has surpassed Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi as the youngest player with 40 goals in the Champions League. The players that reached the 40-goal mark in the Champions League the fastest are Kylian Mbappe at 23 years old and 317 days, Lionel Messi at 24 years old, González Raúl at 25 years old and 258 days, Karim Benzema at 26 years old and 307 days, and Cristiano Ronaldo at 27 years old and 241 days. The PSG believed it could finish first in its group by pressing Juventus, but Benfica refuted all of that. Indeed, the Paris Saint-Germain fans' worst nightmare came true on Wednesday night, when they believed that their team's narrow victory in Turin would allow them to finish first in their group and avoid a big upset in the next match of the Champions League. Unfortunately, Benfica scored the game's final goal at Haifa, and the Portuguese team advanced because of the large number of goals scored outside of the box, so the PSG could no longer hide behind this top spot to defend their failure to play Juventus, with only Kylian Mbappe able to avoid criticism. In fact, Paris relied on the French attacker in Neymar's absence due to his suspension, rather than a phenomenal Lionel Messi who reminds us of the disappointing Messi from the previous season, but eventually, an explanation will become clear. Lionel Messi considers Argentina more than PSG. In fact, like many other players, La Pulga appears to have fallen into the World Cup mood, and the Argentine international is especially keen to avoid joining the list of players who sustain injuries and must withdraw from the World Cup, which kicks off in just over 2 weeks in Qatar. As evidenced by his notes, Lionel Messi consistently receives criticism in the French medias. The longest match played by Argentina in the Cup of Europe this season, he is without a doubt the cause of Mbappe's goal with a goal assist. Also, his insufficient strike from the Frenchy service would have been his only real opportunity to bet on a game in which he would have received some way better results. Where he will have had a good result, writes the Parisian newspaper, who doesn't really see any favorable circumstances for the 7th-time winner of the Ballon d'Or, and who will face the PSG's Champions League opponent on Monday during the polling of the 18th finalists. 2 games will be played after the World Cup, in the hopes that our Argentina's superstar will have properly processed what will happen at the World Cup final. It was a forgettable evening for our poor Carlos Soler. While gaining strength in recent games, the player completely ruined his performance in Turin during the PSG victory, 2-1. His name wasn't really a surprise when the compositions were announced. Following Neymar's ban in Turin, Christophe Galtier made the decision to align Carlos Soler to play with Kylian Mbappe and Leo Messi in the offensive trio, just like he had done in Ajaccio 10 days prior. A really logical choice considering that the Spanish player hasn't played in a month, and just celebrated scoring its first 2 goals in its new colors against Maccabi Haifa last week. To put it mildly, the evening was challenging for the middle field player. Prior to his replacement by Hugo Ekitike in the 1968, even though Nuno Mendes' goal for the signed victory had nothing to do with Soler, the PSG nevertheless fared better by ending this match with 2 strikers in front. His whole performance is what has most disappointed. And that's why most French editorial staffs gave him a note of 2, the worst score of the game, he had only touched 16 little balloons throughout the course of the game's 68 minutes, a famished figure for an offensive setting. Even in the battle, it wasn't any better. More than half of his duels have been lost, 3 out of 7. Adrien Rabiot faced Paris Saint-Germain once more, in a crucial match for the Italians competing for a spot in the Europa League. After making his first ever reunions at the match going on the pitch at the Parc des Princes, the Juventus Turin team lost against the PSG last night, 1-2, throughout the last round, and the final day of the Champions play-off. Yesterday was a bad day for Adrien Rabiot, who lamented his team's defeat against his developmental club. If PSG is qualified following HIFA's defeat against Benfica, 6-1. The French midfielder was disappointed by the Bayern Canaries' latest defeat in the competition. They were playable tonight. We increased the intensity and tried to demonstrate more speed in the game than in the past. We've made quite a few occasions. Unfortunately, we lost the match. We lost some of our sense of reality, Rabiot said on the beIN Sports channel. Let's not forget that Véronique Rabiot, the career managing mother of Adrien Rabiot, is currently preparing to trot back to PSG. The 27-year-old player, who is under contract with Juventus through 2023, and who had left his club former in 2019 under contentious circumstances. Meeting at the Parc des Princes for the matchup against Real Madrid on December 16, the Parisians will host the Madrilènes in their stadium for the 5th day of the Champions League. Over a year after a 4-0 victory in the same arena, they might be on their way to setting a new record. Indeed, a few months after drawing 43,255 spectators to the League of Champions semi-final rematch against the Olympique of Lyon. The PSG women's team hopes to draw at least as many for a loss to Real Madrid, and yesterday, the club announced the location of the upcoming European match, which will take place at 9 p.m. on December 16 at the Parc des Princes for the 5th day of the group playoff. The UEFA scheduled this game on a day when there will be no matches in Qatar, just as the Men's World Championship will come close to the end, allowing as many people as possible to watch the girls' soccer game in the Parc des Princes. Given that this PSG Real should prove decisive for the qualification of the Gerard Piqué team, after losses to Chelsea, 1-0, and Madrid, 0-0, the PSG team is in difficulty for the time being. Also, prior to the Real team's arrival, Paris will have 2 matchups against KFF Lasniaschkoders Albanaises, including one on November 23 in Jean-Bouin Stadium. The PSG girls will play at the Parc des Princes for the 11th time in the competition and the 2nd time against Real. We hope that they will do like Marie-Antoinette Keto and her team, when they defeated the Spanish on November 9, 2021, 4-0. So let's wish them good luck. Thanks you for watching, and I see you in the next videos for some more news.